Do you want to align with God's vibes, adapt to a spirit-led lifestyle, and live out of the fullness of God's plans and purposes for your life? This podcast is for you. The good news I have for you is that your time is now. It's time to transform self-sabotage into self-mastery and revolutionize your world. If you're ready to go beyond the ordinary and break out into the extraordinary life God designed for you, you're in the right place. In the God's Vibes podcast, you will find the freedom and permission to stop chasing success the world's way and simply be who God formed, shaped, and anointed you to be. My name is Juliana Page, and my mission is to lead you on the ultimate adventure, aligning and tracking with God so you can radically transform your life from the inside out and build spirit-driven success. Using life coaching and biblical and prophetic teaching, I'll show you what it means to dwell in the good land God ordained for your life and train you to be a powerful person who is a walking testimony of what's possible with God. Subscribe to God's Vibes for spirit-filled real talk, hard-hitting truth with a humorous touch that will help you discover who you are in God, dare to press through your seeming limitations, and chart a divine path that will renew your dreams and transform your future. It's time to experience true freedom through courage, faith, and self-mastery. I dare you to step out in faith and courageously dive into the purposeful life of trusting God for the impossible. Let's go. What's good, Faith Walkers? Welcome back to the God's Vibes podcast. Did you all join us for the Divine Alignment Masterclass? We covered a lot and we hung out for a while even after the session. It was so great to see you, hear different reflections and questions that you had. And it sounds like it deeply resonated. And the good news is, if you did not join us live, but really wanted to, the replay is up inside the free Courage Co community. You can access that from a desktop at www.courageco.org. You do need the W's in order for Courage Co to come up. Or you can also, from that desktop page, if you use a browser, even on your phone, there is a way that you can download the app and have the app on your phone for quick access too. But once you get in there, the replay is one of the first posts in the feed, in the main community feed. So you've got 48 hours to catch that replay if you would like to do so. And we've got a couple of really great things coming up this week that we announced. So a few things. We do have small groups literally every single day of the week. So we have Dailies with Jesus. We have Good for Your Soul Sisters. We've got Biblical Breakthrough. We've got La Esperanza de una Nueva Amanecer on Thursday. We also have Friday Fire. So you can join any of those small groups. They're totally free. This is a great way to build community and just connect with other faith walkers in real life from all over the world. We also this week have a prayer call. So we do these every other Wednesday morning, and this often turns into prophetic encouragement. It just seems to land. So I encourage you to join us on Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Central Time, and then a couple of other things. So we have this week the Spirit Driven Success Life Coach Certification Program information session. If you are a aspiring life coach and you are interested in learning about how to coach specifically with biblical truth, with Holy Spirit, through the prophetic, with God at the center of all that you're doing, if you want to learn more about being a spirit-driven entrepreneur, kingdom influencing, ethics, morals, the legalities of all of that, I highly recommend you join us and get your questions answered. The applications for this next round of the Life Coach Certification Program are open officially. We announced it during the masterclass, so you can officially apply for the certification. Something a little different this time around is we are offering financing, but this is for serious applicants only. You do have to apply to be considered for that, but we're hoping that that will make it more accessible to those that are ready and willing to truly do the work, but finances should not be something that is limiting you from joining us. So that is really exciting. We also announced that we have applications open for the God's Vibes Mastermind as well. And the God's Vibes Mastermind is different than the life coach certification. I highly recommend doing the mastermind first. The mastermind is really all about your inner man. Your inner man. And we can only prosper to the level that our soul is healthy. So we really have to make sure that we are doing the heart transplant often that it feels like that we're doing when God is circumcising our heart and doing a work in us, that we are whole, that we're doing our own healing work, that we know who we are in Christ, that we know what it is that we get to partner with him to do and how to multiply our influence. So it's inner healing, it's Holy Spirit boot camp. It is a beautiful community, and it's designed to be 3 months. So you get access to it for an entire year. Technically, you could do both the mastermind and the life coach certification at the same time. But those that do the mastermind also get incredible bonuses when it comes to SDS as well. So just wanted to let you know, if one of or both of those are resonating with you, the applications for both of those are open. If you have any questions at all about those programs, a couple of things that I recommend doing. Number one, if you want to hear more about the mastermind, go and listen to some of the recent podcast episodes that we've posted. We had a testimonial of Shelby, who had just been in the mastermind for a year. And then we had a whole marathon of people that have experienced what happens in the mastermind. And we're experiencing so many testimonies to date of people that are just sharing what happens the minute you say yes, when you get in there, even in your first week of interacting with the content, let alone a year. So the mastermind is so powerful. If you just want to work on yourself, if you are in a healing season, if you're not quite sure what is next, I highly recommend the mastermind. If you feel like you are ready to be deployed into your purpose, into your calling, and you are an aspiring life coach or an existing life coach that really feels like coaching has been missing something at the center of it, specifically God, then I highly encourage you to apply for the Spirit Driven Success Life Coach certification and join us Thursday for an information session. If you go to www.courageco.org, you will see a section that's available and it says apply for the Spirit Driven Life Coach Certification Program. So you'll see that. And then the information sessions are listed under that option as an event. So you can join us. So those are going to be happening here every Thursday. So if you can't join one, maybe you can join another, but that is available to you now. And then you can also join us every Tuesday and then every other Friday in the prophetic monthly subscription. That is so fun. We do live sessions, 6 of them every single month, and that is strictly about helping you hear and be led by God in your life. There's not a ton of coursework there. It is not like a mastermind or a certification at all. It is very experiential, and it's so fun. So if that is where you're leaning to, all of these things can be found at www.courageco.org. However, the applications for the mastermind and for the certification are in the show notes, okay? So if you want to apply for those, make sure that you take a minute right now, grab the links. Both of them take about 7 minutes to complete, all right? You got 7 minutes. If you can scroll social media, you can spend 7 minutes investing in yourself, okay? So those are some updates, but you can plug in and join us, www.courageco.org. If you have any questions at all about one or all of those things, you can email info@julianapage.com. The other thing that we covered too, that some of you don't know, sometimes people are intimidated to go through a 3-month, 6-month, even 12-month coaching journey. And I get that. And sometimes you need a quick breakthrough. So just know there's opportunities to do a one-on-one breakthrough session, literally. So if you want to do that too, there's a link to that in the show notes. Some of you all didn't know that I offered that. And so if that is something that is of interest to you and you want to do a breakthrough session and then even explore coaching after that and what that might look like for you. That is something that you can do. If you're confused about that or can't find the link, you can also email info@julianapage.com and just put breakthrough session in the subject line. Oh, they're so great. I just think about it as calling somebody that perhaps believes in your breakthrough more than you do, that you know has a personal relationship with God and can be a voice of wisdom in your life and can see things maybe that you're missing and can just offer such powerful perspective literally in an hour that can change your life, literally transform your life by what's offered there. It's really a no-brainer. Every coach needs a coach. Great coaches have coaches. I was sharing just recently that I was working with my coach and it blew my mind. I mean, literally, I think I was only working with her for maybe we were like 15 minutes into the session. Blew my whole mind. I'm like, let's go. So I don't know about you, but I just believe in walking the talk, in accountability. I love having all of the help. I used to be the human that couldn't ask for help, right? Like, I'm good. I don't need help. I'll figure it out, to being like, help. Yes, please help me. So I like having a whole advisory board of friends that can offer wise counsel, spiritual advisors, coaches, therapists, all of it. I really believe that if you want to have excellent relationships, right? You get wise counsel. If you want to thrive in life, you get wise counsel. If you want to secure your future and really evolve into the skills, the talents, the abilities, the character, the capacity that's required for that, you invest in it. It doesn't happen randomly. So hopefully this encourages you. And something that we're going to do today, we have a guest interview, which is so fun. So I have Karen here, and she's going to share about her experience in the Spirit Driven Success Life Coach Certification Program. Karen is such a beautiful woman of God. She has so much experience in her life and was led to this certification program and has had such a phenomenal growth journey, an accelerated growth journey, and it is just such an honor to be a part of her process. So I just encourage you to take some time, listen to this all the way through, and be encouraged by her journey.
Hi, Juliana. I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait.
I'm so excited that you're here. So tell the folks a little bit about who you are. Who is Karen?
Okay, so I'm Karen. I'm married 20 plus years. I have 12-year-old twins. I work in a corporate job. I've been in corporate for many years. I've known of God. I've been a Christian since I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And so I knew of God, but I didn't always walk with God. So as we'll go through, kind of go through these questions today, I'll share a little bit more about my journey. Yeah. But that's a little more about me.
I love. So fun. So how did you find what is Courage Co and kind of like the world that you've just found yourself in? Like, how did you get here? What is that like for you?
Well, it's definitely God.
Okay. Love.
It was, I have tweens, as I mentioned. I have 12-year-old twins, and they're in a lot of activities. I'm in the car a lot, and over time I've become an avid podcast listener.
Okay.
And one day I happened across God's Vibes Matter podcast. Uh-huh. And I was immediately intrigued. And I was like, okay, I was pulled in by your style and just your energy and how joyful you are. And I felt like Christ just kind of emanated from you through the podcast. Couldn't even see you at that point. Didn't know what you looked like. But I was really just pulled in. And I knew that you had something that I was missing and I wanted more of that. So I basically started binge listening to the podcast. And every time I couldn't wait to get in the car because that's the only quiet time I have. And I couldn't wait to get to the next podcast.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah. And so I went to the show notes and I was looking, I'm like, Courage Co, because you mentioned Courage Co in the podcast. So I thought I need to check this out.
Yeah.
So I joined as a free user. And there was so many just resources in there. I just started digging in. I wanted more and more. And your teaching style, just all of it just resonated with me at a really deep level.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a community in Courage Co. of other faith walkers who thought like me and who were on a journey to grow spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I found my home, my tribe.
Yeah.
And so I just kept desiring, I wanted more. I just kept wanting more. I was in a season of transition. I had recently lost my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I had found out that I was going to be laid off after 20 plus years with this company.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a lot going on. I was feeling a little bit lost in my life, to be honest. And I knew something was missing. I knew I knew the answer was God. Like I just knew that in my heart, but I just didn't know how to get to where I wanted to be.
Totally.
So I wanted his guidance. And I wanted to walk with him through this time in my life. I knew that was the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do it his way and not my way. And so as I was listening to the trainings and the teachings in Courage Co. and just all of the encouragement and everything that was there, it just like I couldn't wait every day to go and listen to something else and I just kept wanting more. And I
think you did the training bundle, right? Is that where you first started?
Yeah. So within about maybe week or two of joining Courage Co. as a free user, I purchased the masterclass bundle and started listening to all of those trainings and teachings. And the more I listened and the more that I just filled my heart and my mind and my spirit with all of the things that you were teaching, from like just about my identity in Christ and who I am and how I realized like I had been living my whole life pretty much almost defeated in a way. And that there was so much more out there. And so I just kept craving more. It was the bundle was so good, but I was implementing too. I think it's important to note that like, it's one thing to hear these things, but you actually have to take the steps to implement what you learn. And so I really started, non-negotiables, right? My time with God became a must every day. And if there's days sometimes when I actually don't do it, I can tell a difference. My day flows differently. My anxiety creeps up and all the things. So a lot of it was though, just really taking in the training and hearing those truths and implementing those things and continuing to get that quiet time with God in prayer and his word. And just one of the other things I really like about Courage Go is the small groups where you get to really just build that community and build those relationships. I've been friends and I've met some of my group in person.
Yeah.
It's been such a blessing and such an encouragement. But I will tell you that over the past, I haven't been in Courage Co. a year yet. And I have grown more in that time in those months than I have in the entire 30-year period before that. So it was really, I was stagnant. I believed God. I went to church. I would read the Bible sometimes. I might even go to a Bible study.
Yeah.
I just wasn't flowing, with God and walking with God. And it's been an amazing journey and it's still going. So
gave me all the God bumps. That is insane. I love this. I love too that you got to do, it was a hybrid Friday fire, right? Where you guys got to meet in person for coffee and then connect with other people virtually, which is so fun. I think it's so important to meet humans that you've been connecting with for months at a time virtually, which is so weird that that's the world that we live in, but quite literally from all over the world, you can meet people. And then to have some that are nearby that you could meet in that way is so powerful.
I just invited a coworker of mine who she's actually in Manila in the Philippines. And I actually just invited her to join Courage Co today. I thought, she would probably really be encouraged by this. And so there's people from all over. It's a great community. And Probably, well, I can't remember how many months I had been in Courage Co when you introduced, you launched the Spirit Driven Success coaching program.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
that's a great point. So talk to me about that. So you are driving in your car, doing life. You know what I mean? Life is life, and you're hanging out, you're in the car. Some stranger on the podcast comes through your car. And it's God talking to you directly, and it gets your attention, which leads you to Courage Go, and you decide to dive in and really apply this content to your life. So now you're hearing that the Spirit Driven Life Coach certification is launching. What is happening for you?
well, let's see. So, the backdrop here, right, is that I'm losing my job and I'm thinking, what's next for me, right? I've been in corporate for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I had felt previously that God might have a different plan for me, that I'd had this kind of desire to start my own business and just entrepreneur. And so that was kind of going on. I'd actually already been through a Christian health coaching certification program. It was obviously more of the focus was on the health aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been through that and I had sort of thought, okay, maybe that's where God's taking me. But I really could use some more like just training and getting more comfortable with how do I integrate the spiritual coaching concepts into that, because I knew that to me, I couldn't do health coaching without the spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so when you mentioned that, I was actually at the time contemplating another program because again, I was thinking about, okay, I'm going to be losing my financial, my income. And so maybe now's the time for me to transition into entrepreneurship. But I need to make the money. I have a certain income that I need to make. So I was focused on the money.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to replace my income?
Yeah.
And so I was looking at a program that was specifically about that. How do you how do you put together a coaching program and make your first 100,000 K?
Yeah.
And so I thought in my practical mind, I'm a very practical type A person. Okay, this is what I need to do. I need to know the steps so I can go make the money. And I'm doing it in a faith-based way.
Yeah.
It's all based on God. It's all good, but something about it just didn't feel right. And it didn't feel, there was nothing wrong with the program or the person delivering it. I felt like that's all awesome. But something didn't feel right about the timing. Something in my heart was just like, something just didn't feel right. I had a lot of, I don't know, just not 100% confidence in making like an investment into that.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, SDS had launched. And so I was like, well, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I was kind of going back and forth. Well, and so I actually, I scheduled a coaching call with you, Juliana.
Yeah, it was a breakthrough coaching session. And I think this is the first time that I ever actually met you, right? Like I hadn't connected with you before then. So I didn't know any of your journey, right? To that depth, which is so fun to hear.
Yeah. So I was like, she does these breakthrough calls. So I'm just going to schedule one of those and see if she could just talk to me, like kind of someone to talk through it with. And I had already sort of, even though we had never talked, I felt like I don't know, like I already had a trust that she's spirit led. And I just felt like that's what I need, somebody to just kind of help me process this. Yeah. And so I scheduled the call and we talked through it. And one of the key things that you said to me was, it wasn't really like you weren't steering me any direction at all, right? Yeah. It was more, what is it that you need right now? And, you encouraged me to pray about it. But you said, don't make decisions out of fear, right? Yeah. Because those decisions are of the enemy, or that fear is of the enemy rather. And, you really just need to pray about what does God want for you now? Like, what do you need right now? And so I did pray about it, and God really showed to me that the program I was about to invest in, not that it was a bad program, but that it wasn't what I needed. at the time. And so I actually made the decision to join SDS. And I will say that in hindsight, looking back, like it was so the right decision. I wasn't ready for that other program. I wasn't ready to go coach other people yet. I still had healing and growth that I needed before I could be ready for that. And that's one of the kind of key things that I've taken away from this program. But anyway, so that's kind of a little bit more.
Amazing. Well, and I love the context too, right? Because I didn't know. And so when we're having this breakthrough coaching session, I love that you're saying too, it's not that I was steering you in any sort of direction, but it was like, how do you get to God and what is on his heart for you right now? So I don't even think we talked about SDS at all.
No, I don't think we did. It was more, I don't think you didn't know that part, but it was more for me, do I join this program or not? And do I make that investment? Because that was the decision I was making. I wasn't even, that was the big decision. And then once I made that decision, it's like God said, okay, this is what's for you after that, right?
Oh, good. That's so powerful. So it's like once you honor him and what he says, and that's a huge part, right? So when you pray a powerful prayer like that, God will answer, but now you got to have the courage to do what he says, right? And the neat thing is he revealed another step. So when you take one, he'll reveal another one, which I think is so powerful.
Yes. And I just felt this sense of, like I said, like almost like oh, this is good. Like I vetted it. I felt good about the person that was leading the program. She was genuine, I think, in her faith and all of that, but there was just something that wasn't right. And I pondered over that decision for a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then I had the breakthrough call with you. And I knew, like, that's why there's something, this isn't what God wants for me right now. And so it was funny because the decision to join SDS, I didn't have any of those apprehensions. Like it was once that decision was made and I knew that's not the path that God wanted me on. He didn't want me focused on the money. He wanted me to trust him to bring the financial, he will bring what we need financially, but I just need to be obedient and follow him. So once I made the decision, and that was like this huge weight lifted off of me. And then, SDS was launching and I kept getting these emails and I just felt like, this is it. This is what I need to do. And there was no apprehension. And it was just, I need to do it. How do I do it? How do I fund it and all those things? So
that's amazing. I feel like you're speaking straight to somebody right now and ministering to them for how to navigate a decision. Like there's a clear need to make a decision. I think that was evident to you. But then it's like, I want to make a decision, not just to make one, but to honor God and to truly trust that this will be one that'll serve me. So some of the things that you're saying too, right? Knowing not to move in pressure or urgency. Like it's almost like that is what you need to pray through and like release that so that the peace and the clarity will come. Because there's going to be unknowns in a sense when you make a decision, but it's like there will be a peace of God and no apprehension. And then we're moving and building in fear. That's often aligned with unless the Lord builds the house, it won't stand. So the more we're partnering with fear, we're building something, but that's a great indicator that God's not in that, right? He doesn't build in fear. So that is so powerful I can just sense people hearing this being like, oh, like that wrestle is normal, right? That wrestle means like it's time to level up in your life. There is more for you, but make sure that you're moving in the more that is for you, not the more that could distract you, right? That's a big difference that I think you highlighted just now.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's that piece, that was really different between the two, the two choices for sure.
So good. So then you find out how to get into SDS, you decide to commit to this, and what starts happening for you in this program?
Well, so I already feel like my life is my spiritual growth was accelerated, right? Just by being in Courage Co. But I think when I got in SDS, it really just it just accelerated even more. I just, because the more involved I got and the more healing I found through just the concepts and, the trainings and applying those and talking through things with our with our coaching groups and with you and our mentoring sessions.
Yeah.
It just really, and I think for me, like one of my main struggles just in life, being a type A personality, a go-getter, I'm a go-getter, I'm a doer. And that's how I cope with everything I do. I come up with a plan and I do it. And so for me, one of the biggest challenges over the past year through everything that's happening, it has been to surrender and to wait for God. And sometimes that waiting is like the hardest, right? I want to take action. I want to do the next thing. And so God has really spoken to me, through SDS that I just need to take day by day, walk with him, wait for him, be obedient when he gives me a nugget or gives me some action that I need to take or shows me something. It's almost like he's dripping things to me. And it feels really, I'm like, okay, can you just give it to me already? I need to know the plan so I can go execute. Because that's what I do. I'm a project manager, program manager by nature. That's my vocation. So anyway, it's been a lot of surrendering. But it's been just a wonderful journey so far. And as I've been going through it, because it is a 6-month program, other things have been happening in my life where, God's kind of been showing me a little bit at a time where he's taking me next. Yes. So it's been, and if I had to kind of talk about like, what are the best things about the program or what have I taken away from it? There's a lot. Hard to choose just one, but just what I just shared alone is significant for me. Because it's really taught me that how to surrender and how to flow with God on a daily basis. But so I found spiritual healing, but I've also gained more confidence in just, my ability to actually feel more equipped or more, I guess confidence is probably the best word, just like helping other people walk through challenges as well. And I think that comes with just the spiritual healing, but also, there's so much content in the program, so many resources and tools. And, it's just so much information. It's a lot of information, but it's delivered in a way that it all makes so much sense. And you're such a great teacher. Your teaching style is engaging and you're always energetic. And I don't know, it makes it fun. Like the way you kind of, you release certain parts of you release the program in sections or, a little bit at a time. So we're not overwhelmed. But I find myself like, I can't wait for the next one. I'm like, okay, what's next?
I love that.
So it's so cool. Also, I just love that you are always available for questions. You're very responsive. I couldn't have asked for a better teacher and mentor to kind of help walk me through this journey. And also there's great support in our community within SDS as well. Just the way it's structured with, we have the mentoring calls with you. We have weekly calls as a group with you where we can bring our questions and just kind of, if we're having challenges or anything kind of working through or processing the information and the training, we bring that as a group and we can all talk and share. And we also have, the peer-to-peer coaching where we're getting to practice coaching, one-on-one with another person in our group. And then we also have the peer group. So we have all these different sort of channels and opportunities where we can practice. So you feel more confident in your abilities to do it. Yes, it's so good. And in the app too, you can ask questions in the app within the content pages. So there's just all these different ways to get support. So I think, go ahead, Juliana.
I was going to say, what's so fun too, I love that confidence has been a huge growth spurt for you. And then even seeing you present and then having more opportunities to do so moving forward and just have different ways to view what this looks like in the world. I think what's been really fun to see and witness and be a part of from you generously sharing and courageously investing in you is how you're not off the path. Like everything has made sense to get you to where you are today. And now it's almost all coming together in this kind of congruence, if you will, where it's starting to make more sense to you, right? It's like, oh, like that was all necessary to get me to where I am today. And then this is how I can emerge and do these things that delight my heart even more than I knew moving forward. And then there's all these skills that really, frankly, just help us humans. They just help us be like great, excellent humans in the world, because I don't think that we're taught how to do that on a day-to-day basis. And so when you think about, oh, like I can engage with this person in this way, and that's way more productive than doing these things or having tools to help you do that. It's so amazing. So for you to even step out and present what you're learning, I think it was such a challenge for you to be like, okay, I'm learning this. This is great, but now I'm going to present it and I'm going to own it and I'm going to teach it. So what was that like for you to share in the group? And know too that like what you're bringing is everything. Like it's authentic, it's unique. Nobody presented the same thing, and what you're bringing is necessary and needed and in a unique voice too that people need to hear. So what was that part like for you?
Oh, terrifying. No.
Yay.
So no, seriously. So I am the kid. I am, just to give you some context here. I've always been the shy kid, the shy person. And as a child, like I would literally get sick if I had to do a book report in front of the class. So over time, obviously in the corporate world, I had to overcome, some of those fears of presenting content.
Yes.
But this was different because this was, I don't know how, trying to think of how to explain it, but it was just different because it was new content that I wasn't as familiar with, right? Like when I present in my corporate, at my job, I know that, right? A lot of it I've developed myself.
Yes.
And so I was nervous. I was so nervous, and I'm in front of my peers and, and so I'm like in front of you. I'm like, this is so nerve-wracking, but you know what? It was beautiful. Everybody is so encouraging. And once I got started, I kind of got over the nerves, I think.
And you even got creative. Do you want to share what you offered too, which was so fun?
Oh, my 12-year-old daughter, so it's funny, my kids, they know Juliana, they know you. They've listened in sometimes because I'll have to do our peer group calls in my car when I'm picking
we'll
them
have
up
to meet them on an actual call and say hello.
We will, because they know who you are and they know the people in my peer group. So anyway, my daughter asked me, she's like, Mom, what are you doing? And I told her I was working on a presentation. And she said, Mom, that's boring. And she looked at it and she told me it was boring. And she goes, you need to do something different, because she had seen one of the other people in our group had presented, and she'd done this really creative video. And and my daughter saw that. She's like, well, Mom, that's kind of boring. So she said, why don't you do a song? And she wanted me to sing. And I'm like, I am not singing. But I got online that evening, and I was like, wonder if there's I'm sure with artificial intelligence, there's some app out there that can create music or something. So anyway, long story short, my son is into Christian rap music, and he said, Mom, you should make it a rap. So I went out and found an AI tool and created a rap about SDS.
It's amazing. I'm like, we have to produce that somehow, because it was hysterical. But I love why I think it's so powerful that you're sharing the story is that you investing in yourself has not just changed your life, but it's changed your kids and everybody connected to you. And I just love that they were a part of this now, because when you think about presenting something, now you're going to just remember it. You're going to own that content in such a different way, because it was such a beautiful experience that you guys created together. And it was so fun. We loved it.
Oh, thank you. I tell the kids, they're like, well, Mom, that's okay, but your characters aren't moving on the video. And I said, honey, AI has, free AI has limitations. So
this is what we're working with for now.
Yeah.
So as you're thinking too about moving forward with this content, two thoughts or questions. One, has God answered your prayer and what you needed or didn't even know that you needed? And then what are you starting to really get excited about as far as how to emerge into what's next after the program?
Wow. Okay. Absolutely answered my prayer. Like I had mentioned earlier, I was really focused on the financial aspect, and obviously that is important.
Yeah.
But I needed spiritual healing. I needed spiritual growth first. And as I've been, with your encouragement too, being obedient to just the nudges and being able to kind of hear those nudges and recognize that it is God. And I know sometimes a lot of people, and myself included, sometimes I'm like, oh, is that God nudging me, or is that just me? And kind of you get confused about what's God's voice. And so I have learned to, if there's something in my heart, it's there for a reason.
Yes.
And I should take an inspired action and just see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
See where he takes it. And so one of the things I was going to mention too, just about coming out of the program, or going through the program rather, was it was kind of, for me, I was like, well, how will I do this? How will I coach other people when our journey, right? Our spiritual journey is never over, right? Our whole lifetime is a journey. And so how am I going to coach other people if I still have growth in some areas, right? And one of the key things I learned, and it might encourage someone else who's listening, is that you don't have to have all the answers.
Yes.
You don't have to know everything. You don't even have to memorize all the content in SDS. You just need to show up and be obedient to God. Let him, let him lead you. Let him speak through you. Give your clients or your coachees the space to allow that, to just give them a safe space. We're not there to fix people.
Yes.
We're just there to kind of introduce and create that environment where the Holy Spirit through us can work in them. So that was like really freeing for me. So because I kind of went into it thinking I need to have all the answers and I'm going to have to do all these things, and you just need to be obedient. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. And that can look different, to your point. That can look different to everybody, right? Like what's maybe okay for you might not be okay for somebody else, or like what's acceptable for somebody else might not be acceptable for you, right? Like there's different things that we're called to, and there's different levels of responsibility, accountability, stewardship, and that looks different for everybody. And I love too, you were on the prayer call yesterday that we do in Courage Co, right? So we were kind of joking that like the resume with God is not like your real life resume. It's like, don't feel qualified, check. Don't have any experience, check. Like feel super freaked out and terrified, check. But it's like he qualifies the called. And so you often are with him pioneering something, meaning you kind of feel like as a human that you're building a plane and flying it at the same time. You're like, oh, he's teaching me this thing and I'm moving in this thing and I'm building it at the same time, but feel totally unqualified to do so. So I have to depend on him. And then he shows up strong in your weakness and you're like, oh, like that's how this thing works, right? It's not me figuring it out. It's not me trying to lean on reasoning and get every detail right. It's like, he'll give me a step and I'll take it and then he'll show up powerfully through me. I'm like, oh, and then he'll give me another one and he'll keep doing that. And so you'll get better and better at recognizing how he's moving, or what you are graced and anointed for and what you're not, right? Or the consequences of not answering or responding to what he's saying. You're like, usually there's a restlessness or like an anxiety until you say yes to what he's giving. You know what I mean? Like you can't be content until you do the thing that he told you to do.
Yes. Yes.
And he'll present a new opportunity to experiment with that.
I have a great example of that. I guess I can share it in a minute. Like, I think one of your questions was about like, how has it impacted me in my life? I would say definitely I'm showing up with more confidence in who I am and my identity in Christ and who he made me to be. Confidence was a huge one for me, and it still is. I won't say I'm like the most super confident person in the world. But you've noticed a difference, I'm sure.
Huge.
And Yeah, that's been a big one for me. And also just the concepts I've learned, um, and just maybe not the techniques. I'm not always using techniques on people, but I will say that the concepts and things that I've learned have really helped to improve my relationships,
Mhm.
like with my husband, even with my kids. And so I think that, I believe too, as I'm kind of looking at how all of this is evolving and where God is taking me next, that everything has a purpose. And so I feel like I'll be using, what I'm learning in SDS in other ways as well. So it's just invaluable information.
That's amazing. Like I'm
Um,
thinking about what you're saying too. It's not like to your point, it's not like you're using techniques on people or that you're trying to fix a human, right? But understanding that we live in a world that's kind of based on the doctrine of emotion, right? Like we always move in what we feel. And if we don't feel something, then we don't make a decision. And that's not God, right? Or we're really fascinated with how we think and just mental health. However, that's also not truth. It's a mind that has not been renewed more often than not. And then we're not even getting into our heart or understanding what it means to move with the Spirit of God, right? So, understanding what is happening in a human in any given moment in a way that they don't even comprehend sometimes what's happening. Because it's so much easier for somebody on the outside to have an understanding of what's happening, right? Think about this in your own life. It's way easier sometimes to give advice to somebody else versus to actually implement your own advice in your own life. Like that's easy to do. But in what we teach, right, we don't give advice, number one. So we're not showing up as the expert of your life. But you do have an understanding of how trauma shows up, how moving in emotion or feelings affects your life, or how leaning on your own understanding gets you in trouble. So helping somebody see these things and distinguish these nuances in their life and move in wisdom, move in discernment, feel powerful, gain confidence. That is often why you need what we call it like a spiritual running buddy or a guide on the side to help you do. And it's invaluable. You can't compare that to anyone. I know when I first started coaching, like having somebody actually see you and be present with you and value you and be fully invested in a moment like that. You don't even get that with some family members,
oh
right?
no,
Like some
sure.
people in your life do not show up that way. So when you have somebody that's actually invested, that cares, and that only has an agenda to help you align and track with God and get what is yours, your transformation, your breakthrough, that next level, whatever it is, what person do you know has that agenda? Right?
None until you.
Well, it's that does something to you. You're like, man, like, because it does model God. Like, God is totally invested in you and loves you, right? And he's not going to speak to you from how you see you, right? Often he will meet you where you are, but he won't let you stay there. And he will guide you and guide you and guide you in this the beautiful way that he knows how to into the future that he's planned for you. And you need people that understand that, because across the journey, it's like you could be wrestling with questions, but that's sometimes part of the process. Nothing has gone wrong here. There's just questions. And in those questions, faith is built, right? But sometimes we'll beat ourselves up. Well, I should have more faith and I shouldn't ask any questions. No, like to have faith, doubt is often present, right?
Yes.
Or like, we think that we need a plan, but like how powerful then that you see God show up as the ultimate planner, right? He's got it all planned. It's so amazing like what that can do for you when you see him show up for you in a way that you could not have orchestrated or figured out on your own. So when you can walk with people, when you have an honor and a privilege of walking with people through this without telling them what to do, without giving them timelines, without giving them like all of these steps they have to take to get this result, when you leave the outcomes to God, it is insane what happens. Like not only do you get results, but you become a totally different version of you. And that's really what this is about, from literally your heart. You literally have, it's like a heart transformation, and then you implement with a new operating system. That's almost like the best way I can describe it. It's like you get a heart transplant and then you go transform everything in your world. That's kind of what happens.
That is true. That's a great way to explain it.
Yeah.
I'm a totally different person than I was, um, less than a year ago.
Yeah.
So, and we were actually talking about this in our prayer group coaching call this week.
Oh, I love
Just the journey, that the other folks in the group have been on, and me, and just it's amazing what God will do when you seek him, and you're obedient and you've got the right tribe around you and, the encouraging folks, because I was not, I don't get that in my day to day, right? I just don't have that where I've got that person who's encouraging me and my spiritual growth. And so it was definitely a God incident.
Yes.
God incidents
Yes.
that I ended up where I am. So,
well, and the neat part too is what can happen when you say yes and when you leap, right? Because you're connected to so many of the people that did that same thing. But that's all divinely orchestrated too. Like who God brought into this, like you guys have been prayed for and covered, right? And he's brought you in together for such a time as this. And that's being revealed as you go through this process. Then how you even got paired with your peer coach or even into your peer groups in this season, that's all God. And so when you see that stuff unfold and why he designed it this way, it is amazing what can happen. And there's something so sacred in that. Like you can't take it for granted. You just show up with gratitude, right? And it's so amazing because I don't know, personally, I haven't been in a program that's set up that way. Right? But it's so neat when you can see that, like, man, like everybody in this season is here because they said yes. Everybody had to wrestle the same doubts, the same fears, the insecurities, the same resistance, right? In battle in a way to get here. But when they said yes, like, look at the growth that is happening. Look what God is doing. Look at the relationships that are forming. Look at what he's just getting started with, right? And how we've all become so different, but together. You have a whole community that if you would have said no, you wouldn't have, right? There's been so many growth lessons, and growth spurts that have happened together that you guys can celebrate. And that's unique too, where there's not competition, where everybody's just rooting for each other. And all of you are designed and so uniquely, but that diversity is celebrated. And you guys are all moving with the same content, but in very different directions, which is amazing, right? Like you're all literally interacting with the same content and going through the same structure, but so uniquely. Right. And that's crazy inspiring when you're around all these humans. You're like, man, like this is what, being strong and courageous looks like in action.
I've never described myself as courageous until now, honestly. That was not a word that I would have used to describe me.
Yeah.
I would say I was mostly fearful. There were all these insecurities and just fear of the future.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and it's as crazy as it sounds, like my job ends in a few months.
Yeah.
And I don't have another job yet.
Yeah.
I don't know that is even where, God is leading me, but I just have this sense of peace, not saying I don't have momentary, moments of panic sometimes, but quickly, right? Like I realize that's the enemy, but like I have just peace with, I know he has a plan and I know it's going to work out and it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
And I'm excited.
Yes.
It's exciting almost like, I don't know what's next. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Bring it on, God.
Fun. That used to be terrifying, but now I'm in a place where I'm like expectant and hopeful, right? Because our help and our hope and our expectancy are all in God. And when we know he's faithful, when we know he's good, like this is all part of his plan. Like he's not freaked out. Like he knows that this is a set time. He knows exactly where you're moving and what's there. It's like all the provision, all the promise is still ahead of you and he's moving you straight into it. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's so exciting because that's not what we're promised from a worldly perspective. It's like, you better panic, you better freak out, you better hustle. You better make it work, get your senses straight kind of idea. But that's not how you build with God. That's not how you do it.
No, it's kind of funny because as part of my separation package, my company gives us like 6 months with a coach. Okay, and wow. So I won't, say anything about the company or anything like that. It's not that they're bad, but it's just a totally different approach, right? And so I get on the call with this coach and she's like, you really need to be out there, like putting in as many resumes as you possibly can. And it takes months to find a job. And the market is so competitive. And these things are true, right? From the worldly point of view, those are all true. But I know, and I am taking steps, obviously. I'm not being irresponsible. But at the same time, it was like almost like this panic. You haven't, you don't have a job yet, and it's just 3 months, and an interview process at most companies now takes 3 months. Yeah. And, it was like this kind of almost like urgency and encouraging a little bit of that anxiety. And
I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, I don't quantify that as coaching, but interesting approach.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. But just totally different, approach to things in the world. And, like I said, I have peace, and I could walk away from that call normally, prior to a year ago, I would have left that call in a panic. I would have gone out and I would have started just doing all the things, and just in a panic, kind of in a panic mode, anxiety mode. And instead I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm going to think about that. Okay, God, what do you have next?
Oh my God, I love that. And I was just hearing the phrase too, right? Like, he reigns above it all. Like, God is above all of that, and he operates outside of all of that. Like, none of those things are too hard for him, right? Like, that just gives him a better setup. You're like, okay, cool. Like, this is the reality, quote unquote, of what it looks like. But like, none of that means anything to God, right? Like, he can make a move in one instant, right? And it is from a combination of prayer, of taking inspired actions, of doing your part, right? But letting him do the parts that are outside of your control. Like, oh, it takes this many months for a company to even respond to you. Do you know the Lord? If he wants a company to respond to me, that'll happen, okay? Or like, you right? Like, it's a different system.
Yes. For sure.
Different government and different systems. So I love how you responded to that. Even that is a breakthrough, which is amazing.
It is. It is. If you only knew me before, like really knew me.
Yes.
You would know how big of a breakthrough that really is.
That is huge. That is huge. And so for folks that are listening today, let's say maybe they find themselves with a legitimate reason to fear, right? Like a reality to fear, or maybe they sense that there's more for them too, and it might have to do with this program. How would you encourage somebody, or what might you tell them?
About just in general, I would say just seek him.
Yes.
Seek him in prayer. Just, sit with him. I think my tendency is to fill quiet time with my voice, or talking to God about all the things I need and all the things I'm worried about. But sometimes you just have to sit and listen. So I will sometimes, I will pray, but I will read the word, and I will contemplate the word and ask for him, to just show me what he has for me today. And he always shows up. He always shows up every single time. If I'm seeking him, he shows up. And another kind of thing that I do sometimes when I've got all these pressures on me, and I do this, sometimes I'll wake up and I'm like, all these things are just on my mind, and decisions and all the stuff. And I just journal. I'll sit down and just start writing it all out to God. Yeah. Here's what I'm worried about today, God. I'm giving it to you. Just show me your will today. Yeah. Show me what you want me to do today. That one step, or those things that you want me to act on today. And that's how I have been able to get through all these, just the months of uncertainty, and still, right? That's what I do. So I would encourage, just generally, if you're going through challenges, and just in life, right? I do that every day anyway, but just if you're going through challenging times, those are some of the things that I've done. But if you feel the least bit of kind of a stirring, or maybe God's calling you to join the program, my encouragement is do it. Just do it. Just be obedient. Let him work in your life. Take that step out in faith, and see what he does with it. Yeah. I think you'll be amazed.
You'll be bamboozled, we like to say.
You will be amazed because his plans are far greater than anything that we have in mind. And I will say that some of the things he's revealing to me, just over the past few weeks have been not a direction that I would have even thought about taking. But that's, I feel him taking me and these places that I just step out in faith and follow him each time. And it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for what's to come. So I would say if you're thinking about it, and he's nudging you, obviously pray about it, pray for discernment, but I would encourage you to follow and be obedient because he'll do great things in your life. It's an amazing program, an amazing community. I couldn't say more good things about it.
Amen. I was hearing the whole time too, the scripture, humble yourself before the Lord and he'll exalt you, right? Yes. Like as we just get before him, as we just lay down all the cares, as we just cast all our anxieties on him, as we just are honest about what's happening inside of us. And we're like, Lord, here it is. Help. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. He will show up and it will just astound you truly. And I love what you're saying too. He moves you forward, right? Guides you forward, draws you forward with the desires of your heart that he put in you in mind, so there might be some things that you think you need, right? But he's also factoring in what fulfills you. Okay. Which is truly amazing, which is often, when we're not moving in honor of self, right? It's often not what we would go towards or what we would pursue, but God's like, no, I have that in mind too, right? As you seek me, I will give you these desires of your heart and they will fulfill you. And they'll probably be outside of what you're thinking that you need or that you even desire. But I've got that all figured out and I've got it all in mind. So for somebody too, that's in a season where you're like, this is crazy. I would never, what is going on? That's actually quite normal, supernaturally speaking.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So good. So good. Well, thank you so much for being obedient. Thank you for investing in yourself and showing up and doing the work. It's just such an honor to be a part of your journey. I'm so glad we're connected. I'm excited for what God's about to set off and all these testimonies that are to come, test and biggies that are coming. And I'm just so grateful to know you and to do life with you.
Oh, thank you. Me too. Thank you. You're a godsend, and I'm thankful for that in the community every day. So Amen. Thank you for what you do and for being obedient and humble and, just showing up and sharing Jesus with us every day. Amen. So thank you.
Amen. Listen, if you are not plugged into Courage Co yet, what are you doing? Courage Co is a faith-based community off social media that you can access from your phone or your desktop, literally from anywhere. It is a safe place and a sacred space for you to invest in and live your most courageous and impactful story. You can join us for free for prayer calls and challenges, for a monthly subscription where we have monthly masterclasses, or the God's Vibes Mastermind, where you will get live master life coaching at a price that you won't get anywhere else. 12 weeks of content that we will go through together, or you can navigate at your own pace. You'll have lifetime access to that. A community of women doing this alongside of you, a workbook, and so many other materials to help you on your journey. And I just want you to imagine for a second, having the courage, clarity, and focus to achieve anything you desire. Walking into any situation fully confident, knowing you have everything you need to succeed. Embracing challenges and overcoming obstacles with grace and ease. Feeling only love and compassion for others, no matter how they may have hurt you in the past. Standing up for what you believe in and taking unstoppable action to create the kind of world you want to live in. You're in the right place to take your next step on your journey. When you plug into the God's Vibes Mastermind, I'll teach you how to identify and eliminate the self-limiting beliefs and habits that are stopping you from getting the results you want. I'll teach you how to heal old wounds that have negatively impacted your self-image and self-esteem for far too long. I'll show you how to dismantle the story of who you are and what you can or cannot do in the world. I'll help you expand your consciousness from fear-based limitation to love and compassion and service to the world. I'll help you vanquish the inner enemies that are stopping you from being all that you can be. Release your victimhood and reclaim your power. Develop a aligned mindset and habits to boost your productivity and results. Gain deeper awareness of your own inner light and divinity, and achieve the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self-mastery needed to achieve any goal. You will learn how to think the way God formed, shaped, and anointed you to think, and succeed the way He always intended, and show up in any situation as the most powerful person in the room, no matter what challenges might appear on your path. If this sounds like something that you want to be a part of, I want to invite you to join the God's Vibes Mastermind. You can get plugged into it over at Courage Co. You can access Courage Co at any level at www.courageco.org. Together, we will awaken your inner warrior spirit and unleash your capacity to achieve any goal you can imagine. You will become an example of what's possible with God.